everybody, welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. Today I am extremely excited because on the Skype-a-phone I am talking to the man who, along with his brother, made internet history by creating, writing, animating, and voicing the classic cartoon Home Star Runner. A big Jeff Rubin Show welcome for Matt Chapman. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me on the show.
We have so much to discuss. I think I told you this, but I had a poll and I asked people just who would they want to hear on the show. And there's sort of an eclectic mix of guests on the show. It's a pretty open-ended question. It could be anyone. And you won. People are this cartoon, you recently released one in April, but the cartoon is what, 10, 15 years old now?
Yeah, we started in late '99, early 2000. So yeah, we're getting up there. We're almost able. We can get our learner's permit, I think.
All right, well, let's start at the beginning. This is 2000. I mean, how did you get into animation? Is that something you always wanted to do?
I mean, not really. We screwed around with, Super 8 stop motion stuff and terrible quality VHS stop motion when we were kids.
This is you and your brother?
Yeah.
And when were you kids? What kind of equipment? What era is this? What kind of equipment did you have access to?
So we started out with Super 8 cameras, so you could actually do full-on stop motion, frame by frame, which was cool. But of course, we were terrible at it. But we did, you'd make your Hot Wheels go around a track. I remember animating with Muscles, which were these little pink figurines.
Yeah, I remember those guys. They were like wrestlers, kind of.
Made one of those in the sandbox in the backyard with the big climax was a vinegar baking soda volcano at the end that melted some of the muscles.
So even when you were little, you and your brother were into animating, into cartoons.
Yeah, I mean, it was more, if animation was the thing that we had access to doing easiest at that time, that was what we did. And then once the video camera was basically just set up on a tripod in our basement, and it was one of those old ones that was tethered to the VCR. Once that happened, then we started making much more live action stuff. So it's sort of like whatever was sitting around that you could make content with, we would just pick that up and start making some kind of terrible content with it.
Is it just you and your brother, or are there other siblings?
There are other siblings. We have two sisters and an older brother. The older brother, we're close with all of them. The oldest brother was probably the most influential as far as our style and our terrible 80s metal music preferences.
I guess that's what older brothers are for, to show you to get you into all the cool stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And he basically funded our video game habits from the late 80s all the way up until, basically we moved out of my parents' house in the late 90s. So
was it clear to you, even then as a kid, maybe in high school at least, that was what you wanted to do, that you wanted to create things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, by the time I got to 8th grade, I was gonna either go out for track or not. It was literally the night before. It was okay, tomorrow is the physical, and you go, and tomorrow is the tryouts for track, and everybody else in my family had done track and athletics and stuff, and I just decided at the last minute that I was I don't know, this is what I want to do. And my parents were super cool, and for the next birthday I got a video camera, and so that's kind of from then on it was sort of all right, I'm going to make something hopefully for a living at some point, be it with a video camera or a computer or a pen and paper or whatever it was.
I'm so impressed that you knew exactly what you wanted to do. You recognized what you were good at. You recognized your passion in
I wasn't
8th grade.
Definitely not good at it. I'll correct you there.
Well, there's a few fans on the internet who would beg to differ. I mean, did you imagine yourself as an animator, as a writer, as a director, or you just wanted to make things?
I definitely, in the early days, it was I wanted to make films. I wanted to go to film school, which I ended up doing. But I was I'm going to make movies. And then again, like I said, I sort of realized over the course of it that it was once I started making, terrible demo tapes of music on my answering machine in college, I realized that I was sort of satisfied with making content wherever you could sort of squeeze it into the world. And then, so when my brother and I finally found Flash, a friend introduced us to it in the late 90s. We were kind of oh, this is great. We could easily tell stories with this and not have to do anything but sit in front of our computer for a few hours.
When were you in college? Especially with relation to when did Homestar Runner start?
So that started right after college. So I was in college from 95 to 98 or 99. And then my brother, I moved home and was living with my folks. And then Mike moved home. He dropped out of a master's photography program at LSU. And then once we moved in together, we were kind of like, we should start doing some stuff like we did when we were kids. And Flash and then Homestar Runner were kind of the first attempt at that, really, and we just stuck with it.
All right, so now we are up to Homestar Runner. For those that don't know, what is Homestar Runner? How do you describe it to people?
This is the reason why we would never be able to make a Homestar TV show or movie or whatever, because we're terrible at marketing it or describing it in any way. It's a series of web cartoons featuring weird, non-human characters that all live in a weird world where there are no adults or normal places or roads or sidewalks, and it all sort of moves from left to right, and they all kind of like each other and hate each other at the same time, and there's only one girl.
Why is there only one girl?
Because my brother's wife, or back at the time girlfriend, could kind of only do one voice.
So you and your brother, you're doing everything. You're doing the writing, the acting, all the voices.
Yes.
I mean, where did this start from? Because I guess it's not a show, like you're saying, it's not a show with a central conceit, with like a core premise or anything. I mean, maybe the most popular feature was just answering email, right? So how did it start? It seems like it grew very organically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that's like, again, why it would never, there's no way you could ever reproduce this if like, because we pitched a version of Homestar Runner in like the year 2000 to Cartoon Network, which, back then there was no Adult Swim. It was sort of in the late or maybe even after Space Ghost had gone. I think the Brack Show is coming up. They just started Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Yeah, I feel like Adult Swim's like 2001 or 2. I remember the launch of it pretty clearly.
Yeah, so we were sort of before that, and we definitely didn't really fit with what they wanted to do. And we tried to pitch it as like hey, there's this character, Homestar's this like, he's like an athlete. He's kind of like the captain of the football team, but he's kind of dumb. And then here's Strong Bad. He's like a wannabe Darth Vader. And like we tried to make a Bible and like make it sound like a pitchable show. And of course they passed on it, which was good. And then we decided to keep going with it. And so without, we just, like you said, exactly, we just were able to let it grow organically and just keep trying new stuff and be like, what do we like doing? What is fun to do? And then once anybody started watching it on the internet, then we had that feedback to go from too. It's like, oh, what do people like? Oh, they like this character the best. Let's have that character answer emails and make fun of people. So that was all, again, in like, 2000, 2001.
That's such a unique thing to the internet, the idea of like, we'll try this character, and kind of figuring it out on your feet and letting it grow organically, versus television, where you need a pilot, you need a series Bible, you really need to like plan the whole thing out. And as far as I can remember, as far as I can tell, you guys, like one of the first people to do that, to go through that process of growing a series. You probably didn't even realize what you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we totally didn't. The first 2 years of it were just like this fun thing we were doing in our spare time. Like, it was no different for us than making some weird zine at Kinko's or recording a crappy album with our friends on a 4-track. Like it was just another one of those like, hey, we're making this thing. But for the first time ever, it was like, oh, more than our friends are looking at this, and we're hearing from more than just 5 to 10 people that they like it or don't like it or whatever. It was like, because it was on the internet, it was the first time we ever could gauge that it's like, oh, people are watching this and seem to like it. So maybe we'll keep doing it. One
of the kind of neat things about YouTube is that view counter, I feel like, really democratizes. I don't know if I used that word correctly. The content, like, when you see something that has like several million views, you're like, oh, this is popular. There's something to this. Maybe I should stick around and watch this. And, you can just see how popular something is. And I think there was a sense that Homestar Runner is very popular, that it was going viral before that was really a word. But how popular was it? Like, I've got were there millions of people watching it? Thousands? I just don't even know.
We intentionally, first of all, we didn't know because there was no Google Analytics in the early days. We had no real indicator. We were just paying $30 a month for a Yahoo web hosting account that I think was supposed to give us like maybe a gig or maybe like half a gig of transfer a month. And we finally got sort of like an anonymous email because their customer service was notoriously terrible at that point. So it was really hard to get a human being on the phone. And we got sort of an anonymous email with our stats in it that was just like, hey, you guys might want to consider something else. And that was it. It was like someone on the inside, I think maybe was a fan of Homestar Runner. And before, instead of like charging us a ton of money for the overages we were doing, just gave us a little like, hey, here's what you're doing. Maybe take this to another web host and look at other options. And we realized that we were doing like multiple terabytes of transfer instead of the half a gig that we were paying for. So we still had, that was the first time, I think it's how I learned what a terabyte was. I don't even knew that that storage or data could get that big at the time. So that was, like I said, that was 2001 or 2 or something. And so then we realized like, oh crap, like we should probably find something, find a way to host this economically. So we started looking into that. And then shortly thereafter, I remember it was like a fall where it seemed like kids got back in school. And I think it sort of like went from early on in the game, it was like just white collar people like that had worked in cubicles. Those were the only people that knew what web cartoons were because they were the only people with the T1 connections to watch web.
Right. This is an age where not everyone's on broadband. I love pre-YouTube internet. It's like my favorite topic in the world. I'm loving this.
You were still 28.8 or 56K modem, most of the people at that point. So it was like, that's why we, in the early days, you can still find cartoons on the website with loading games. There was like, play this game while the cartoon loads.
Well, the cartoons, were they video files? Like, they weren't video files as we know them today. Like, they're not, like, you couldn't just upload them to YouTube tomorrow if you wanted to, right?
Yeah, there was Flash. It was the actual Flash. I mean, YouTube still runs on Flash, some sort of version of it, but it's like it was what's called a Swift file, which is just what you export straight from Flash, and you could embed it in an HTML file. So yeah, it wasn't like a QuickTime thing, and there was no play bar or pause button or volume control. It was just like you controlled it. We had to control all that, and again, we didn't really know. We were just learning as we went, so we didn't know how to really present it. So it was just like, okay, crap, we made this file and it's 2 megs, so it's going to take somebody on a 28.8 modem, a half an hour to download. So we'll make a mini game for them to play while they wait for it to download, which is a kind of hilarious time to be on the internet.
Yeah, it's interesting, like all the technical skill that you had to have that like someone who was making a cartoon today I would not have to. You wouldn't need to learn the word terabyte or gigabyte to make a cartoon. You pretty much just upload it to YouTube and you're done. Were there other things like that you were doing that you wouldn't have to do today?
Definitely. I mean, we basically had to teach ourselves HTML and how to author in Flash. If we wanted to do any sort of interactivity or games, we had to learn ActionScript, which was Flash's like programming language.
So you were learning this to make Homestar, like you didn't know this and then decided to make Homestar Runner. You were learning it to make Homestar Runner. Yeah,
we basically my brother had done some Photoshop in college and that was about it. I had done like software, like video editing, like Avid, and I don't even know if I'd ever seen Final Cut actually. So we had some experience, but we basically taught ourselves Flash, HTML, Photoshop, Illustrator, ActionScript, like whatever it took to get a cartoon on the web, audio editing software, whatever it took to get a cartoon on the web in the year 2000, we had to sort of teach ourselves how to do it.
Do you look at people now, people who have it so much easier and, shake your damn head?
Not really. I mean, I feel like it's just there's a different learning curve, and maybe the best part for those people is that the learning curve is more like, oh, how do I make my characters better? Or how do I shape my story or my joke? Like my humor. That's what they can concentrate on faster than we had to concentrate on some technical logistics before we could get into like content questions. So it's probably better for them. I don't know. I like to be a grumpy old man sometimes, but I feel like those kids, it's like, no, take advantage of it. Go nuts if you can.
The same way that we're talking about this being a pre-YouTube internet, it's also a pre-social media internet. Do you have any sense of how these things got passed around, how they spread?
Like I said, I mean, definitely it started with just the people that had the fast connections that could watch this stuff, which like I, at the time, was working customer service for MindSpring, which then became Earthlink. And that, that's how I even knew what Flash was because there were other dudes like in tech support that were, watching Flash cartoons. And then I feel like those people started passing it down to their younger siblings. And then in the early 2000s is when I feel like computer labs at universities really started to take off, or like more, or like you got a computer in your dorm room with a decent connection and that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's really when it exploded, was when it got to like college students. And because I remember, I think it was like 2002, we started selling hooded sweatshirts, and all of a sudden we were like doing all these orders. We were running the things out of our parents' basement at that time, selling the merchandise, and it just like kind of exploded, and we were all super busy like packaging hooded sweatshirts to send to college students. So I feel like it was just straight up word of mouth, and got around universities and workplaces and whatnot.
How long was it between starting the show and that word of mouth starting?
I mean, it was we quit our day jobs in 2002 or 2002 or 3. Is when we like our dad basically was like, you should quit your day jobs and make cartoons for a living.
Very undad-like statement.
Yeah, maybe the best, especially he was like an accountant and a like CFO. It's like to hear that advice from somebody like that was basically the coolest thing you could ever hear. So it was like, it took about 2 years of doing it as like a labor of love thing for word of mouth to get around to when folks were buying enough T-shirts and whatnot for us to start doing it full time to pay the bills.
But you were doing it full time to pay the bills.
We did. We started in like I said from 2002 to 2010 when we took our little hiatus. That was all we did was just Homestar Runner full time.
Was that satisfying? That must have been. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right?
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I'm currently working with like cable children's cartoon networks in California, and it's like not to bag on those people, but nothing has topped basically this. Even the stuff I did out in California in the industry, quote unquote, never came close to touching how awesome it was doing Homestar Runner full time for a living.
Was there an episode that like was the tipping point? Was there one that got spread around the most that made the show in your mind, or was it a gradual thing?
Once we started doing Strong Bad emails every week, it was right when I had been living in New York and we were doing it. Mike was in Atlanta and I was in New York. And then I moved back from New York and we decided like, hey, let's start doing something every week. And so that's why we'd done a few Strong Bad emails at that point, but we decided like, oh, that's the easiest thing we could do. We could do one of those a week. And so that was like 2002. So once we started making it every week, I feel like just the weekly updating of Strong Bad emails was really when it started to go crazy. I remember like it was either the techno one where he does like makes fun of techno music, or the one where he makes fun of like squealy guitar players. It was like one of those that was sort of like a lampooning of some very specific niche. Those were when it really started to it felt like you'd like then find someone like. You'd meet someone later on and be like, oh, I saw that. Actually, some dude at work showed me that cartoon. And so it was the harder we made fun of people, the bigger it seemed to get. So then we really concentrated on just ragging on whoever we could.
Now, Strong Bad's almost like the Fonzie of this show, in that the show is called Homestar Runner. So theoretically, it should be Homestar's show. But I feel like, at least for me, and maybe this is just me, but Strong Bad is probably, when people hear the words Homestar Runner, I feel like Strong Bad is the character they most that leaps to mind first. Is that right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we spent. I mean, that's largely what we did every week for 8 years was making new Strong Bad cartoons. So yeah, that's totally fair, and that's, we don't have any problem with that. It's if Strong Bad is or Trogdor or whatever it is all anybody ever remembers us for. It's like, hey, I'll take it. That's fine with me. I always have a soft. Homestar is a much more fun character to write for and to perform. I've always felt like.
Why is that? What's the difference between Homestar
for me personally,
and Strong Bad?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because the voice Strong Bad is a little gravelier and sort of hurts your throat after a while. Though it's easier to be an asshole, obviously, but it's almost easier and more fun to be an oblivious asshole, which is kind of what Homestar Runner is. Like, he doesn't know he's being a huge jerk all the time, but yet he is. So I don't know. And maybe because like Strong Bad sort of became everybody's favorite. I always sort of felt sorry a little bit for Homestar and started pulling for him a little harder.
Was Homestar then your favorite?
I would say if I had to pick an actual favorite character, I would say that we sometimes make these old-timey cartoons where we fake like Homestar Runner was around in the 20s or 30s. and make black and white weird old timey cartoons. And I would say that old timey Homestar Runner might be my favorite character.
Where did these characters come from? Like, are they based on anything? Like, was there a nugget of Strong Bad that you remember starting with before he became who he is?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there's the main characters came from like I was talking earlier about just making weird zines at the copy shop or whatever. Like my friend Craig Zobel and my brother Mike made a little zine called Homestar Runner. The Homestar Runner enters the world's strongest man contest back in like 1996. And it was intentionally supposed to be like a weird children's book that didn't make a lot of sense and was kind of weird, and its moral was a little strange. And so that's where Homestar, Strong Bad, The Cheat, and Pom Pom all came from.
Oh, wow. So they all have like they go back.
Yeah. So there's these like really, kind of hilariously drawn versions of those characters. And it wasn't like it was sort of supposed to be funny, but it's like you just read it and you're like, huh, all right, I just read that, I guess. And you don't really know what you're reading. And then when my brother and I started doing Flash animation, we were like, oh, what if we used those characters from, that little book you guys did? And then very quickly, like you said, they started sort of evolving into something else. But there are like, there's weird things. We'll look at the past where it's like sort of the dynamic between Strong Bad has two brothers, Strong Sad and Strong Mad. And there's a little bit of the dynamic of, me and my two brothers in there. I would be the Strong Sad. My brother Mike would be the Strong Bad. And our brother Donnie would be the Strong Mad, who's the oldest. It's not all exactly one-to-one, but there's definitely a little bit of that brotherly dynamic in there.
But one of the pieces of merchandise that really stands out to me was there was that Strong Bad video game. Strong Bad's really cool adventure game.
Yeah, Strong Bad's cool game for attractive people.
Yes, that's the one, which was with Telltale, who's, of course, gone on to do that great Walking Dead game. Were you guys involved with that?
Oh yeah, we were incredibly involved with that. They were super cool at letting us have a ton of influence on it and final say on almost everything. If anything, maybe we were too involved. But it was that was super fun to work with. They approached us, which we were super like. I grew up, because Telltale is founded by guys that used to be at LucasArts and places like that, and I grew up playing Monkey Island and Sam and Max at the Road and those games. So to hear from those guys was super cool, and like it was very validating to be like, oh, if there was anybody I would make a point and click adventure game with, it would be those guys that made those games I played growing up. And then those guys emailed us and said, hey, are you interested in doing something? So that was super fun. I mean, it was a ton of work. We realized that in terms of the lines of dialogue and the amount of sort of jokes we did in those 5 little mini episodes, we did maybe like 3 years worth of homestarrunner.com content, all in the space of like, the 6 months or however long, like the year that we worked on those games. So it was cool, but very, very taxing. I remember having to look into weird herbal remedies for my throat because I was doing like, several thousand lines of dialogue for Strong Bad a day.
So Strong Bad, that's just your voice. Cause I feel like on South Park, for instance, I feel like Cartman initially was Trey Parker doing that voice, but at some point they figured out how to just put it into a computer and tune it down. But Strong Bad, that's all you. That's all your vocal cord.
Yeah. We've never. I don't know if there's any voices where we ever like pitch me up or pitch me down. All the main characters for sure. I could, sit there and just have a conversation with those characters back and forth.
If you wanted to do that, I'll stand back and stop asking questions for a minute.
You should start asking questions, because who wants to listen to me ramble on about nothing in particular, man? Ask me something.
So, okay. I really felt that. Like, I really felt like I had to ask him something immediately, like he was yelling at one of my emails or something. So you mentioned, like, that this was this great thing. It was popular. It was your full-time job. In many ways, it was more, in some ways at least, it was more satisfying than industry work that you would go on to do. So what was the hiatus in 2010? What made you guys decide to take a break?
It was mainly just I just had my second daughter, and then we had started. It was right at the 10-year mark, which felt like a nice big if you're going to take a break, 10 years felt like a nice time
to take one, I guess.
Take a breather, right? And then during that time, we decided hey, let's start talking to some of the people we've heard from over the years, in the industry, and see if there's something there to to work on or to try and grow. And so we started talking to people out in Los Angeles, and then some of that stuff started to actually move forward. So we were like, okay, well, if we want to keep pursuing this, we kind of need to put Homestar on hold to try and put all our weight behind that stuff. And so that's what we started doing. And I ended up actually moving out to Los Angeles for a few years, and we got to do a bunch of cool stuff and work with a bunch of cool people and work on a bunch of cool shows.
What shows did you work on? Because I think people would love to know.
When I first got out there, Mike and I both wrote and directed some episodes of the children's show Yo Gabba Gabba. And then I got to write and direct some shows of the creators of that show had another show called the Aquabats Super Show, which is a sort of televised version of their crazy surf punk band. So that was really cool to work in live action, especially live action with we got to blow up motorcycles and have crazy monster costumes and make weird, almost, Power Rangers-y fights. So that was awesome. And then after that, when I started working at Disney, I've gotten to work on the show Gravity Falls, Wander Over Yonder, and even they're doing these Mickey Mouse shorts, and I got to sort of brainstorm with those guys a little bit, which was super cool.
It's cool. These are all, I'm not. I'm more up on children's TV than most people my age, but not 100% in. But those are all shows I've heard good things about. These are not just random shows. These are really well-regarded shows. And some of them, I think you can see some of the influence of Homestar Runner. Because to me, when I think of Homestar Runner, I think it's very... it's like proto-Adult Swim, like the randomness and the pop culture and the video game jokes. Like, people were not making video game jokes. It's hard to... I know this is impossible to believe, but people, I swear to you, no one was making video game jokes in the year 2000. They weren't that popular. It wasn't that mainstream yet.
Yeah, it's weird. We always felt weird about making them, too, because we felt like they were played out, because, we had been doing, we were, my senior year in high school... I got to make the senior class T-shirt, and I made it an Atari logo, and it had a joystick on the front, and everyone hated it. And I remember feeling terrible that I ruined the class T-shirt. So we were already being stupid and nostalgic about retro old school gaming in 1995. And so then when we started making those jokes on Homestar, we were kind of I don't know, people will probably think this is just lame and played out. And then, over a decade later to see that people just 8-bit stuff and old school Nintendo and old school PC games and stuff is still has become its own weird subgenre of everything, of animation and comics.
Just
and
a major pillar of the internet, I would say, is video game jokes.
Right. So it's funny that we thought we were doing something that was played out in, 1995. But obviously that stuff had legs. So that's good.
Yeah, you mentioned that you were talking to Cartoon Network before Adult Swim existed. Would it be easy for you to imagine Homestar Runner on something like Adult Swim, which is, probably the main thing is just that it's more random, for lack of a better word? It's a little more scattershot.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I feel like with the good part, the thing about the internet is you get that interactivity and that sort of immediacy that, Adult Swim comes close to that because they can have crazy, short production turnarounds, I think, and air something that, was just finished a few hours ago and then put it on the air. So it's probably from anything that is broadcast on TV standpoint, they would probably be the ones, I would hope anyways, willing to air something closest to sort of what our website was like. But at the same time, there are those things that that's why YouTube is kind of, for us, is weird because we want to just put all of our cartoons on YouTube, but then all of our cartoons have hidden stuff in them and these things that are harder to do on YouTube or impossible to do on YouTube. So it's weird. I don't want to just be stuck in the early 2000s Flash animation scene, but there are things that we sort of were staples of our style of not storytelling, but whatever, just conveying our weird entertainment to you that are specific very much to that time. And so it's funny that we're finding it hard to find some modern version of that we could, kind of check all the check boxes on what makes a Homestar Runner cartoon or a Homestar Runner experience.
Was that one experience you had with Cartoon Network, was that the only time you tried to develop it into a show? It's hard for me not to imagine that in a time when internet shows, this is .com bubble, internet shows are just this new phenomenon. It's hard for me not to imagine that there weren't a ton of people who were there's something on the internet that's popular. It resembles a TV show. Why don't we put it on this TV thing we have?
Yeah, I mean, there was so that pitch to that's the only time we ever formally pitched like the Homestar Runner TV show was to whatever year that was, 99 or 2000. There was a time when then in like 0203 that we heard from some folks like so this was sort of post.com bubble bursting, but we heard like we went out and talked to Nickelodeon and talked to Disney back then, and it was sort of a pair. They were super nice, and we were kind of like it was more of a thanks no thanks, where they were like, hey, we'd love to make your show, but you can't talk about cold ones, and you can't can't say crap and sucks, and just these few things that we were like, well, that's like not that it's so funny that he says crap and sucks, but it was sort of like our to have to censor our cartoon, which was already like fairly not family friendly. I won't say it like that, but at the same time, it was like not it wasn't South Park, and to have to then the price of it being all right. Now you have to get a bunch of network notes, and it can't be what it was on the internet was kind of not interesting to us at the time. And then especially once we started doing it full time and it was paying the bills, it was like, well, why would we go do anything else? When we can just be the masters of our own destinies or whatever.
Man, you guys are so ahead of your time. Like that's a thing people are doing now is, you hear stories about people making livings on YouTube, but in 2000, 2001, and 2002, it's so unheard of. Like when you told people, we don't work for a company. Our job is we make cartoons on the internet. Did they look at you like you were telling them that you were like flying a jetpack to the moon or something?
Yeah, I mean, most people it's funny, they just sort of didn't hear that. Like, because I would meet people that years later that we had told that to back in, when we first started doing it. And they'd be like, oh, wait, you do this full time? And where I was like, yeah, I told you that in 2003, man. And they'd be like, oh, I just didn't assume you could do this full time. And like, people sort of like, so when we would tell people that, they just didn't believe it, or their brains just sent it right out the other ear and kind of would forget that we said that we were doing it full time. And it wasn't until anyone else started sort of making a living or at least getting noticed on the internet that they were like, oh, okay, they might be one of those people. But so it was funny. It definitely would surprise people when they just assumed that it was like, okay, you must have a day job and you're supplementing with this, or you're doing a bunch of freelance on the side. And then when we tell them like, no, we're lucky enough to do this is solely as our source of income, they would just be like, okay, I didn't hear what you just said. Goodbye, I'm leaving.
And was that income from ads or was it merchandise or something else I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, we never did any ads.
I mean, like Google AdSense, I'm not sure if that even existed then. Like now, like you don't have to do anything to do ads on YouTube. You just check a box, but I don't even know what you would have had to have done to do ads. I mean, I guess it would have been shitty banner ads.
Which it's hilarious. We made the conscious decision. I remember when we were like first putting up the website, I think you could like with the Yahoo hosting account we had, I think you could just like add banner ads, like if you wanted. And we were like intentionally like, man, we hate banner ads. Banner ads are the worst thing about the internet, and they're going to go away any day now. So we're not going to put them on our website. So no, it was all just from merchandise sales. We never did any advertising because that's a thing we always hated about the internet. And we were like, TV needs these. Why does the internet need these?
That's amazing that you were moving just enough pure merchandise, that you weren't even selling the show. The show was just an ad for the merchandise.
Well, sort of. And we were actually pretty bad. Our dad, like I said, our dad helped us out in the early days, and he was always sort of bugging us to push the merchandise more than we ever were. We were always sort of maybe a little too punk rock about like trying not to sell out and not to like push the merchandise to where like lots of people would be fans of our stuff for years and not know that we even sold T-shirts or CDs or DVDs.
Man, a Homestar T-shirt in like the early 2000s, that's such a great way to make friends, because if you see someone else that recognizes that shirt, there's a really good chance you two are going to get along.
That's cool. Yeah, we've heard a few stories of like there are like couples that that's what they got. That's what they like met over, was somebody wearing a shirt, or met over like laughing over a strong bad email, and then ended up getting married. And then we'd get like they would have bought one of the like baby, Trogdor shirts that we made for their baby that they had. And they'd be like, look, Homestar Runner brought us together. And we were sort of like, that's a wonderful byproduct that we never ever would have intended.
I have to assume that you've seen a few Homestar Runner tattoos over the years.
Yeah, those are the first time we, I can't remember if it was I feel like it wasn't what you would have expected. It was like the first one we ever saw was maybe like a Coach Z tattoo, which is, one of the sort of secondary characters. And we were like, whoa, this person has terrible, terrible judgment. But then yes, Strongbad and Trogdor, that's this dragon that Strongbad draws in one of the cartoons, those were definitely the most prolific as far as getting on etched into people's skin.
Which is a leading indicator of a cartoon character's popularity.
Yeah, I hope those people. I always thought about following up with any of those tattoo people and be like, you still stand by it? Did you have it removed in the late 2000s? Where are we with your Trogdor tattoo?
Are there people? I mean, it seems like, I don't think there's anyone who's embarrassed about their Trogdor cartoon, to be honest, largely because you guys didn't sell out. You didn't make a shitty Saturday morning cartoon out of it. And are there people that still access the website? I mean, I looked at it this week, and it's fun. Are there people that still access the website? Then I'll tell you what I thought when I looked at the website.
I would assume so. I mean, yeah, we do have Google Analytics now, so we check it. I mean, we've always tried to stay. We want to make sure people are looking at it, but at the same time, we never wanted that to influence what we made. Like we didn't want it to be like, oh, nobody's looking this week. That means we need to make more blank kind of cartoons. So we know that people are still watching it. We know when we did that April Fool's update this year, it got way more people looked at it than we ever even imagined would have at this point. So people are still checking it, and our goal is we did that thing as sort of a test to get back into doing it. We'd love to start making stuff again now that I've recently moved back into the same town as Mike.
I definitely want to hear about that, but before I forget, let me tell you what I thought when I looked at the website, because this is what makes Homestar Runner so cool. There is nothing else like it, and there probably never will be again. Because in addition to making the cartoon, you also had to build the player for the cartoon. So that's why you have all these little interactive touches, and this way you took advantage of Flash as a medium. If you're making a cartoon today, I'm not saying no one does this or you can't do it, but it's pretty crazy if you're making a cartoon not to just put it on YouTube or Vimeo or something like it. But you guys had to build a website.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, if you go to the site now, it's kind of a mess. Like if you were going every week back in, 2004 to 2006, then you kind of knew where things were and you knew where the new stuff went. Now from just a user, a user experience standpoint and a information architecture standpoint, it's like a total train wreck, which we figure if we actually started sort of doing stuff regularly again, we would probably have sort of the museum version of the site, which is as it stands now and as it's been for the past 12 years or whatever, and then maybe a newer a version that has a front page that's maybe a little more 2013. I'm not going to say that it's 2014. We'll maybe go as recent as 2013 as far as your sort of interface. Because it's kind of a hilarious. It's like a little time capsule almost of the early 2000s.
Have you considered that I'm talking short term? I don't think this is a problem, but long term, you probably don't have to worry about it. One of your fans will do it, but archival, I don't know that's I think every video on YouTube will probably be available for the rest of our lifetime. But, Swift videos, I can imagine a world where Adobe updates Flash in a way where, and I don't know that much about Flash, but where your videos no longer play.
Oh, yeah, that's you're talking to a guy that was on the losing end of the Blu-ray versus HD DVD decision back in the day. So I know what that's like. I banked on HD DVD and then I I haven't bought physical media ever since. So we always sort of worry about what's going to happen to our content if that stuff changes. So we've got it backed up in 1,000 ways, and we could hopefully adapt it to whatever the sort of current norm is, so that people can keep watching it. Maybe we lose some of that interactivity or some of that layer that we've kind of Flash enabled you to put on there, that let you talk with your users and your viewers a little more openly. But hopefully we'll be able to find a way to keep people watching it in some form or another.
So what you're telling me is you promise a Homestar Runner on the Oculus Rift by 2016.
Oh man, I would love that. That would be fantastic. Yes, you'll be able to watch all of them. It'll be like they're in your face or in your living room, berating you.
I want to talk a little more about the TV stuff. After spending 10 years making cartoons with your brother, for yourself, at the start for the fun of it. It all grew very organically. What surprised you? Was it a rude awakening entering, the world of traditional TV production?
A little bit. I mean, we kind of knew what to expect. But I definitely do feel like, what we realized was that it was like, we're terrible at just like we could come up with a funny character, but that's probably going to be the seed of a funny character. And who knows how much we'll need to like get that character growing into something hilarious and engaging, that like if I have to write a character bio for some dude I just came up with and have never put in a cartoon, it's just like that seems insane to me.
Yeah, you never did that.
I can't describe this guy to you. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know what he moves like. I haven't made a cartoon with him yet. So that was definitely a funny thing that I think we, would have only realized if we started sort of developing something in a traditional TV sense.
Were you able to, develop that muscle?
A little bit. I mean, better. It's funny because the people that we worked with were actually really cool and sort of met us halfway. And they were like, once they sort of realized that it's like, okay, these guys are having a hard time with this. They were just sort of like, you know what? Why don't you just start making it, and then we'll go from there. And actually, that worked better for everybody. Like they could kind of see what we were going for easier because we were just doing it, and making jokes and making songs and making a cartoon essentially. Even if it was crudely animated in Flash, it was closer to like what they would end up seeing than if we just have to write a character bio or an episode synopsis, in an email or whatever.
And when you and your brother work on these shows, are you working in the capacity of just writers? You mentioned you're doing some animation. Is that just for, getting that writing up to where it's going? Or are you actually working on character designs and that kind of thing that makes the final product?
For the projects that were like me and my brother's ideas, the original stuff, that we were doing everything.
Which were those?
There was a project that we did with Disney, a pilot that we did about a robot foreign exchange student. And so that was all us. And we worked with some other like artists and stuff that did backgrounds and some character designs and things like that. But for the most part, what they got from us was basically a Flash animatic, like a Flash storyboard.
I imagine there's not many writers who turn in Flash animatics with their scripts.
I think it's getting a little more common. I think maybe at that time, because this is almost like 3 or 4 years ago at this point when we started working with them, it was a little more out of the norm. Now it seems like it's actually becoming more and more common, which is cool, I think.
What about the other side of that coin? So there were things that you didn't have as much experience with because of the way you and your brother worked. But are there skills that, did you bring any unique skills to the table because you're, quote, from the internet?
I think because we had to just kind of do everything ourselves. I mean, I got to write songs for a couple cartoons that like, where the script would be like, oh, and then the characters, sing a song. And so I would just make the song because I had an idea in my head, and they'd be like, oh, hey, cool. This is, we'll use this. And so I actually got to, on that show, Gravity Falls, I got to write a song that's used in an episode. And so that was kind of a cool thing where, because of our sort of DIY approach to making our cartoons, I got to apply that to, ordinarily, I don't think a guy from the writer's room would be writing a song on one of those Disney cartoons. They have a whole sort of music department that generally does that. So that was kind of cool to get to wear a couple different hats and flex those other muscles.
Was it frustrating at all? I imagine the production cycle is such that, your job on the show is done at a year before it premieres, maybe more.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, it's so hard. It makes you impatient. And then like, it makes you like search the server for like the half done version or the animatic version or the like, version that just came back from the animation studio, but it's not quite finished yet. And then you watch that, and because it's not like all polished, it actually doesn't look quite as good. And so you like get burned by it. So that is kind of a funny thing that, yeah, the turnaround is crazy. Like I keep saying that, we used to make a cartoon every week basically, and then in the last 3 years, as far as my own cartoons, I've made like 2, which is sort of sad to look back and think on the previous 3 years.
But obviously it's a different thing. I imagine it must is the sense of satisfaction different, or is it just still you got to make something?
No, it's cool. It's definitely it's cool when something airs, on the air, and it's got credits behind it and stuff. And like now there's even some stuff I worked on that you can watch episodes of on Netflix and things like that. And So, I had people come up to me after that had happened and be like, "Hey, I saw your name. You directed this episode of the Aquabat Super Show that I saw on Netflix with my kids or whatever." So it's sort of a different kind of satisfaction, which is cool.
That is cool. Is there something? It sounds like in large part you fulfilled your original dream. You're not making feature length movies, but you're definitely making stuff. You're making tons of stuff. You're making cool, unique stuff. Is there something you still want to do? Do you still want to make features?
Yeah, there's feature ideas, live action feature ideas, animated feature ideas. There's video game ideas we'd still love to realize at some point. But at the same time, because of kind of what we did with Homestar, I always feel like I'm living on borrowed time. Like, it's just like that kind of exceeded our expectations at every single step of the way. So it's sort of like, I don't know, if I get to do anything remotely cool from now until I die, that's like gravy on top of an already delicious Thanksgiving Sunday.
Have you guys worked on any video games besides the games that you made for your site and the Strong Bad game?
Not really. My brother Mike, though, he just did with our friend Jonathan, who used to program all of our Flash games. Jonathan Howe. They just made these point and click adventure games for the Adult Swim show Rick and Morty.
Oh, those are good. First of all, Rick and Morty is my favorite show. I love nothing personal against the shows you worked on, but I love Rick and Morty so much. And the adventure game is particularly pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, they so that was basically my brother and our friend Jonathan, and then they had Justin Roiland would look at whatever they proposed, and they would they'd edit it from there. But yeah, they Mike did all the graphics for it, and our friend Jonathan did all the coding and programming and stuff.
Do you still work with your brother on most projects?
I mean, since I started working at when I was working on those Disney shows, it was harder because I was in Los Angeles and he was in Atlanta. So it's been actually a couple of years since we've really worked hard together on something, and so I've just moved back into the Atlanta area with him. So we're psyched to start working again together. Actually,
this year, April, first cartoon in a while, which you already mentioned. Sounded like you were testing the waters a little bit to see if there was still interest.
Sort of. I mean, it was something we had heard from people, that were like, "Hey, where did it go? We want it more," which is always super cool to hear.
I bet you get that on a daily basis, whether you know it or not, like in your email or somewhere. That must happen all the time, right?
Well, I hope it does, because that would be very encouraging. I feel like the consensus is sort of that we like stopped because we didn't want to do it, and I hate for people to think that we're just like have been sitting, in a pool with a martini, sort of laughing at the internet. Like, what fools, like, we'll never make you a strong bad email again. And it's very much the opposite, where my brother and I have sort of lived the last 3 or 4 years, like, still sort of thinking in our brains that we're going to be making a new cartoon next week. And we would like routinely text each other dumb jokes from a Homestar line or a Strong Bad line that will probably never happen. But so it's we've been jonesing, we've been wanting to do this stuff. It's not that we were like,
this is also exciting to hear.
We hate it, we want to take a break. It's more that it's like, no, the rest of the world has sort of influenced us in a way where we have to take a little time off. But it's and there literally hasn't been time to do them. So that's why the April Fool's thing was definitely like all right, we've got the time, we're gonna do it. We're going to see if anybody gives a crap anymore, and if they do, then the goal will be to start making more stuff. Hopefully, on a more frequent basis.
And I think we can conclude people still gave a crap, right?
It seemed like it. I mean, maybe it was a fluke just because it was the first one we've done. I don't know if there'll be diminishing returns or not, but just based on that alone, it's enough to make us want to give it a try again.
The reaction I saw to it, the only thing I can compare it to, and this is a very high compliment, is when Bill Watterson recently came back. Like when Bill Watterson, did you see that thing? I feel pretty good that you did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So Bill Watterson, who of course did Calvin and Hobbes, recently emerged and worked, secretly guest drew a few. What strip? Pearls Before? What comic strip was it?
Yeah, was it Pearls Before Swine? I think so.
I feel like I'm totally missing a major part of the story if I can't remember what strip he felt he would do. Was it? I can't remember what it was. Anyway, when Bill Watterson came back, it's like he's returned from the top of the mountain. I feel like it's the same with you guys. Like everyone wanted to know where you went, and all of a sudden, just there's this new cartoon. So when you move on, looking forward, do you think is this something you see like living on YouTube? Or are you imagining going back to Flash cartoons and all these interactive elements?
First of all, I will say that the fact that you mentioned us and Bill Watterson in the same sentence is fantastic. And even if you had said these guys are the polar opposite of Bill Watterson, I still would have been honored to hear those words uttered together. But we would probably just start updating the website again, and like I said, maybe find a way to make the front end of it a little more accessible, a little more like what modern folks are used to when going to a website with content on it versus like, it had been a while since I had been on our website, honestly, when we did that update, and I had a hard time finding stuff on it.
Right.
But we would probably also augment that with, put every cartoon that we put up also on YouTube. So you can watch the HD version with, better sound or whatever, but it's not as interactive. Or you can go to the website and watch the 2002 version. And, we'll see. I mean, it depends on how whole hog we go. Like if we give Strong Bad a Twitter account or Strong Sad a Tumblr or something like that as part of a relaunch, that's all stuff we'd have to kind of feel out and see if it does it feel right, or does it feel like we're sort of cashing in on some modern thing and as opposed to keeping it sort of timeless.
And would the goal be to return to making this the full-time thing you're working on, or do you imagine, now that you're in the industry, you'll always be working on TV and movies, and it'll never quite be like it was before?
I would just, like I said, I would just love to be making the cartoons with those characters again. That's sort of the first thing that I'm thinking, and then beyond that, if it even looks like it'd be a possibility of trying to do it full-time again, that's amazing. I'm not even going to entertain that until, I'm just excited to make these dumb animal characters talk again.
And you can. You have that is at your fingertips. Is this something you guys are like actively working on?
I will say that my Mike and I went for a long walk today discussing a potential strong bad email. So yes, we are very much so.
So discussing an email, is there an email that someone sent you that you are figuring out how to do, or is it
I don't know, Jeff.
Okay. Sorry,
No, I don't want to set expectations too high. I mean, it's all sort of hypothetical and floating around in the ether at this point. But I mean, needless to say that we are jonesing to do this stuff again, and it's mainly just sort of other outside factors, giving us the time and ability to do it.
I mean, it's cool. It's cool that audience is still there years later. That you built something that years later people are still thirsty for. That they want to come back. I feel like in my personal life, I still hear so many people quoting Homestar Runner on a regular basis, referencing it. I'm wondering, between you and your brother, do you do the same thing? Are you guys quoting the show a lot?
We do some of it. It's funny because like there are quotes in the show that were these weird like family inside jokes that we then just put into our website, and so we still have some, like our own weird litany of like those kinds of things that like be it from the website or from some weird kid that peed his pants in third grade. Like it's like those weird things that we're still saying. Some of it's from the website. Some of it we forget if it's a joke we made on the website or not. We were saying that we'd if we started making cartoons again, we'd kind of need to like have an outside third-party research assistant just to tell us that it's like whether or not we did a joke already or not, because we don't quite remember.
I mean, how much Homestar Runner did you guys produce over the years?
I mean, there's 205 strong bad emails, and then probably another 100 or so other emails. So we figured out that I think if you wanted to do like a cartoon of the day, I think you could maybe get 365 cartoons out of it. Some of those would be those like weird answering machine things, but so we did a good chunk of content.
And do you have any sense of the timeline for bringing it back?
I mean, I would say just again, I don't want to like disappoint anybody. I mean, it's the kind of thing that if we could, we would just start making them next week. But it's I would say in over the summer and the fall. I mean, look for something. Don't completely let homestarrunner.com drop off your radar. You might find something new somewhere on the horizon. I wish I could be more specific, and it's not because I'm being veiled and weird. It's more that it's like, you have to understand, when my brother and I make a cartoon and it's uploaded to the internet, we finished it the second before we hit the upload button. So these are not things we're doing in advance and then keeping under wraps. These are things we are making and instantly uploading to the web.
Well, how can I stay updated on news? What do you after you finish the video and after it's uploaded, how are you going to tell people?
You may need to count on that word of mouth at first, and then if we can get some other secondary, maybe social media or otherwise sort of thing going, then we may do that.
You guys don't have a Homestar, like an official Homestar Runner Facebook page?
No, come on. My mom is all over Facebook. When your mom and your grandma are all over Facebook, then it's time to get off of that thing.
Well, I was just saying, for example, maybe. I mean, lots of interesting media personalities have Facebook pages that they like to plug at the end of their podcast. But, if not Facebook, I just, meant anything. It's hard to believe that, like, again, it just goes to show what a different era that the show came up in, that there's no social media, that there's no real existing social media presence for it.
No, I mean, for a while there, the fans sort of made their own, so we didn't really have to. Like, you could find fan pages that would have had more information than we ever would have given. But since we sort of, stopped updating regularly, those have sort of fallen off. But yeah, I don't really, like I said, we'll tiptoe into that stuff and see if it serves us well. Right now we're being grumpy old men about embracing social media, whereas Homestar Runner is concerned.
Yeah, I'm not saying like you need strong bad tweeting and like saying funny things about the events of the day, but just something to let me know when a new episode is up would be nice.
Exactly. Maybe we'll go as modern as an RSS feed. How about that?
I like RSS feeds.
We'll meet you in 2007 or 8.
I wish it's unfortunate they fell out of favor. They were very handy RSS feeds. Well, now we've reached RSS feeds. I think that means it's time to start wrapping up. Matt, thank you so much for talking. I mean, Homestar Runner. It's funny, I'm just a little bit younger than you, so I was going to college from 2004 when the show was like really hitting, and it was just the biggest thing it was just a prime time to be a Homestar Runner fan. It was just the biggest thing in the world. So it's so exciting to get to talk to you. So exciting, even more exciting to hear that there's more Homestar Runner coming out. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for talking, man.
Matt Chapman, folks. What an honor to talk to Matt Chapman. I cannot wait for more Homestar Runner, and you cannot wait for more Jeff Rubin Show. I will be back in 2 weeks. You will hear more about it if you follow me, with all apologies to Matt, on my Facebook fan page. I'm on Twitter. I have a Tumblr at jeffrubin.com. Of course, every episode of the show is available at jeffrubinshow.com, as well as my email address. I guess I got to run another poll now because I need who is the new person you guys want to hear the most on the podcast. Let me know, and I'll try to track them down. My email address is on jeffrubinshow.com. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.